right, let's start off with basic concepts. So we're going to look at the window and the workspace, and I'm going to start off by looking at this in Photoshop. Then we'll pop over and look and see what the differences are in Photopea. So first off, we're going to use the term workspace. A workspace is the arrangement of all of these panels that you see on the screen. So the tools that are on the left, the properties bar on the top, that's going to be in both our programs. The use of tabs for your images, both programs. And then the fact that we have all of these little tabs over here, color, swatches, learn, layers, channels, all of those, that's the same in all of them. But in Photoshop, you can customize your workspace. So for instance, I can grab this layers panel and bring it out here somewhere. Oops, I grabbed a hold of the picture. So I can grab this layers panel and bring it out here. I can also make it bigger or smaller and things like that. And those are the types of things that you really can't do in Photopea. So there are some things that are very specific to Photoshop, and these workspaces are one of those things. So if I pull out all of these different little things, say I've just got everything in kind of a crazy place, I can put them back by going to Window and Workspace, because it's the arrangement of panels as the workspace. And then I would click on Reset Essentials. Now it says Reset Essentials because I'm in the Essentials workspace right now, and that's what we usually work in here. So I'm going to hit Reset Essentials, and it puts everything back in its nice, tidy little places. Okay, so that's what a workspace is, and we only have workspaces in Photoshop because in Photopea you cannot undock all your panels. So let me open up Photopea here. I can hide these panels by clicking on them and hiding them, but I can't pick them up and scoot them. That's just not something that you can do in that program. Okay, so back in here, we can also change the way that we see images when we have multiple images open. So I can grab a hold of this little tab and just yank down, and I can actually look at both of mine. I can yank this one down too. I can look at both of my pictures at the same time. Can't do that in Photopea either. If you have a bunch of pictures open, you can go to Window up here at the top and Arrange, and then you can tell it how you want it arranged. So I can say, put them side by side. Or I can tell it to put them all back. That's consolidate all to tabs, and that puts them back in those tabs. So again, it's kind of up to you as to whether or not you're going to want to undock things or not, but that's an option in Photoshop that gives you a little bit more power and control. All right, so how do we get a picture from one to the other? So let's say that I have this background, I'm going to undock it, and I have this frog, and I'm going to undock it. I can take this frog with my move tool, just point to the frog, and click and drag and let go when I get over to the other one, and then the frog is in there. I can't do that in the other program because I can't put them side by side. So that's kind of a problem. How can I do that a different way? Well, let me show you. Now let me put these back to tabs. So let's say I have this one. If I want to take this one and put it in the other one, and you can do this in both of them is the same, you can go to Select All, which puts little ants around the whole thing, Edit Copy, which copies it, click on your other tab and Edit, Paste. And now you have that in the other document. And that's how you would do it in Photopea because we can't put them side by side. Okay? The third way that you can insert pictures, so you can either drag them in or you can copy paste, but remember you must select all first, or you can what we call place it, and you can do this in both programs as well. So it's File, Place. There's only File, Place in Photopea. In Photoshop you do Place Embedded, which just basically means like make a copy of it. So File, Place Embedded, and then I can go get that saved picture and place it. It puts it in there, and it automatically, if it's bigger than the picture that's there, it won't let it hang off. It always makes it no taller than your picture. So if we were dragging something in and it was huge-mongous, it would stay huge-mongous. Like it would cover the whole thing and you wouldn't be able to see that background anymore. So if you place it, it kind of puts it in there in a different way. It makes it a little bit different to work with. Now you might say, well, then why don't I just always do that? I'm going to hit OK here. Well, because look down here on my layers. I'm going to undock these so you can see better. See that little icon? When you place a picture, it's considered what they call a smart object, which means that you can actually edit that picture as if it was still open on its own. I can double click it and it's going to go in there and it takes me to that frog picture where I can like work on it and close it and then it would update it. Now that's not going to mean anything to you at this point in the class, but I need you to understand that when you see that icon, it means that you have it in there a special way. And if you place it, you're not allowed to do things like erase it. See how I get a big no sign? It says no erasing because you can't erase objects. Okay? To erase it, we would have to convert it to a different form, and that's called rasterizing. Some people call it flattening, but rasterizing is the proper term. Now, if I click to try to erase right now, it actually is going to tell you, hey, this smart object must be rasterized. Now, caution, caution. If I'm like, woo, woo, little lights going, just because something pops up on your screen does not mean you click OK. In this case, it does because I want to erase. But if you accidentally were on the wrong layer and you got ready to erase and you were on a layer that has like text on it, well, you can't erase text. So if you rasterize your text, you turn your text into pixels instead of text, which means you can't change the font, you can't change the size without it getting blurry. So just because things pop up does not mean you say okay. Okay, in this case, I would want it to do that. And once I rasterize it, see, it's not a smart object anymore. Now it's as if I pasted it in. Okay, so that's that. Another thing that you have to worry about, only really in Photoshop and only if you're going to drag things across, is the color mode. We talked in a previous lesson about color modes. It's under the image menu. Again, this is a Photoshop only. And this is where you can change the color mode of your images. Okay, indexed color, that's what your GIF images are going to come in as. And GIF images don't play nicely. So if I go out here and try to grab one of these images, let's see, I think I have a GIF in here. Well, no, I don't have one. If I had a GIF image in there and I tried to drag it over, it wouldn't let me. I'd get one of those no signs. So the thing to do about that is look up here, see in the little tab it says RGB, RGB. If they don't match, you just go to image and mode and you pick RGB. You say, hey, you got to match everybody else. So join the RGB club. Okay? And then you can drag it across. Now, if you're copying and pasting or if you're file placing, you can put them in there though. So just bear in mind that that may be necessary depending on what you're doing. Okay, the history panel. Each action that you do appears in the history panel. If you can't find a panel, and this is in both programs, you go to the window menu. So I'm going to go to window and history, and here's my history panel. So it says I opened it, I saved it, I drug it in there, I moved something around, I pasted something, I moved something around, I placed something, and then I rasterized the layer. So if I wanted to back way up to the beginning when I drug that first one in, I can click back in my history instead of hitting undo a bunch of times. You can also go to edit and undo the state change. Control Z in Photoshop is only going to undo one time. So if you want to undo a bunch of times, you're best to use your history. Now in Photopea, you can press Control Z multiple times. In Photoshop, you would actually do Control Alt Z if you want to back up multiple times. So Control Alt Z is actually how we back up in Photoshop and plain Control Z in Photopea. So make sure you know the difference between those two. The Navigator is another good one. I like to keep it up most of the time as well, Window and Navigator. And this allows me to zoom up on the image and back on the image without having to go over and grabbing the magnifying glass all the time. Okay, so we can zoom up. Now you can also zoom up by using your keyboard. So you could say Control plus, 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 Control minus, minus, minus. You can press those, or you can press Control 0, and these work in both programs. Control 0 fits it on the screen. So if you got zoomed up real close and it was like hanging off the screen and you wanted it all to come back so you can see it, Control 0 is going to fit it to the screen. Okay, I'm looking at my notes page to make sure I've covered all of the basic things. Um, when you're zoomed in really closely, you can point to your navigator. See how you get a little hand? You can point to your navigator and use that, or you can come over and grab the hand tool, which does the same thing. But what I normally do is I press the space bar. So watch, when I'm pressing the space bar and I'm holding it down right now like it's still pressed, I can pick up and scoop this from inside here instead of having to go to this little guy. Okay, now that won't matter a lot here in the beginnings of working with Photoshop, but it will later on. And it just, while you press the space bar, you get the hand, and when you stop pressing the space bar, it goes back to whatever tool you have, which right now I have an eraser. Okay, um, some additional items we'll get into in the next session when we're talking about how to change the size of things and all of that. But I do want to show just a couple of other items. So if we were changing the whole image, then there are a few things that we can do. One of those things is we can crop the whole image. That's the crop tool. And I'm sure you've seen the crop tool in lots of other things. You just draw you a box around what you want to keep and then hit check mark. And it gets rid of everything else. Basic cropping. You've done that on lots of things on your phone and so forth. Now, on here on Photoshop, notice that whenever we have an image and we open it, it's on a background layer. In Photopea, when we open an image, it's also on a background layer, but it's not locked. Well, Photoshop locks it. So I'm going to click on that and unlock it. If it's locked and we erase, we don't actually erase. We end up with some sort of background color. So I'm going to grab my eraser now. And now if I erase, see how I get checkerboard? I wouldn't get that if my background is locked. So if you're going to be erasing a background, you're definitely going to want to unlock that background layer. You can tell because it actually even renames the layer in Photoshop. So I'm going to press Control++. We're going to zoom up here and you can see my little frog. Now I have a kind of a soft brush going on. We haven't talked about soft and hard brushes yet, but eventually we will. So to make your brushes bigger or smaller, and erasers are called brushes in Photoshop. They're just brushes that erase instead of paint. To make your brush bigger or smaller, to the right of the letter P are brackets. So if I push the left bracket, see my circle gets little. If I push the right bracket, my circle gets big. It's a lot faster to use those keys than it is to come up here at the top of your screen and change the sizes. Like there's a size button, but there's no reason to use it. There is literally a cat on my back right now. Anyway, so that's one of the things that you need to know about an eraser. The other thing is that our two programs have different erasers. So in Photoshop, we have 3 erasers, and the first 2 we have on both. Photoshop has the best eraser, which is called the Magic Eraser. So let me show you how the Magic Eraser works. The Magic Eraser works by basically, if you click, it erases everything in that color that's connected. So like this part's not connected. But that's it. It's like bam. It's an amazing eraser. We don't have that in Photopea. So whenever I do the demo, I'm actually going to use Photopea. So we'll put together a document together, and I'll use Photopea and show you how to use the other erasers. The Magic Eraser, pretty cool, only Photoshop. Regular eraser works as you would expect it would. Click and drag around and things erase. But again, if you're going to erase, you need to make sure that that background layer is indeed unlocked. Okay, what if we wanted to flip this the other direction? That's what we call mirroring. To mirror the whole image, you would go to Image, Image Rotation, and flip Canvas Horizontal. And then it flips it the other way. Now in Photopea, it's pretty close to the same. There's just one little difference in where to go on the menu, but you'd be able to find it. So it's in that same kind of area. There are also some additional things that you can do up here under the image menu. One of those is adjustments. There's lots of adjustments in here. I'm only going to look at one of them today, which is the black and white adjustment. The black and white adjustment will let you make it black and white, or it will let you tint it. So that means I make it shades of another color. So if I come in here and I want to make it shades of blue, or red or purple or whatever, I can do that, and then I can increase how much of that color we're getting. So that's called tinting. So basically you turn it black and white and get rid of the color, and then you tint it a color. Now this is done the same in Photopea almost, so let's take a look at it. I'll just do it with this image here. So I'm going to go to Image and Adjustments, and I'm going to go to Black and White. So there we go, we got the same situation. If I click Colorize though, so it's colorize instead of tint, then I can come in here and pick a different color. So say blue, and okay, and there we go. So it works a little bit different than the other one, but it works. And we can move these sliders around to change various parts of it. So that's that one. To flip this one the other direction, you go to Image and then Transform, and then it's that same thing, flip horizontally. So as long as you kind of know what menu to get to, you can find it regardless of which program that you're in. It's not too hard to figure that part out. Okay, resizing images. So your image sits on what's called a canvas. The canvas is this invisible thing. So like if I pick up this frog and I scoot him around now, that transparent area behind my frog is the canvas that it sits on. So that's what that's called. You can make your canvas bigger or smaller. So if I go to Image, the Image menu again, and Canvas Size, then I can make my canvas bigger. So like right now my canvas is 5 inches and something wide. If I make it 7 inches wide and hit OK, then my canvas gets bigger on the edges. Same thing with Photopea. We can also enlarge the canvas. It doesn't work as nicely in Photopea, unfortunately. But if I go to Image and Canvas Size, say I add, this one's in pixels at the moment, but let's say I make it 800 pixels wide, then it expands it out. Now you can see in this one, I hadn't deleted my image or my background yet, and so we have transparent pixels out there, but you get the gist of it. It's basically the same concept there between the two. So enlarging canvas is the same, image canvas size, and resizing images is the same. It's under image size, and then same, you just put in your measurements for that. Same thing in Photoshop, image size, and then you can resize the image if you need it to be smaller. You should really never resize to be bigger. That's not considered a good practice. Okay, I think that pretty much covers the basics of it. In the demo of what we're going to do together, I'm going to use Photopea instead of Photoshop. So for my students, if you are using it on a computer, that's totally cool. If you want to use your Chromebook, that's also cool. And just know that if you're using your computer, you're either going to have to save your file to your actual computer drive, or you can use the Google File Stream. So all my computers in my lab should have Google File Stream. So if you go to File, Save As, find the Google Drive file stream. And if you've never connected your account, you may have to do that. There should be a shortcut somewhere. Just search for it. And then you can actually access your Google Drive. So these files here are actually on my Google Drive. And then I've saved this demo file there, and then it will sync up to my Google Drive so that it's on my Google Drive. And then if it's on your Google Drive, technically you could even open your Photoshop file later in Photopea and continue to edit it. So even in Photopea, it does not automatically save like your Google Documents do. So you are going to have to take that extra time to save your work. And you want to save it periodically. You don't want to work for an hour and then save. So you save as the first time so you can give it a name. And then any additional saves, you're just going to go to File and Save. And that's the way that works. Now in Photopea, it can be a little bit different because it tends to download it. So like if I decided to save this document right now, it's going to have me save it as a PSD, a Photoshop file, and technically it's going to have me download that file to the computer. Now again, I can put that file on my Google File Stream if I'm on a computer, or on your Google Drive if you're on your Chromebook. So either way, you can still access that file, but you do have to save it. It does not save automatically. So if you just close out a Photopea and come back another day, your file will be gone. It won't be in there. It doesn't hang on to it for you. Okay? All right. I think that's pretty much it, all the basic items here. You'll learn a lot more things as we put together a document, but I wanted you to at least have an overview of the panels and the way all of these little things work before we actually get into the project. So in the next lesson, let's hop into Photopea you're going to be opening this background image just like this, and we're going to start with the background image, and then we're going to be working with this frog fly image and adding some additional things in there. So get ready and make sure that you have good notes